Hello again and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite little pieces of gear for backpacking, the Fancee Feest stove by Zelf. I like it a lot, but who knows, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. We're going to put it up against the competition today and see who comes out on top. Coming up. That's right, it's a stove showdown for the ages. Can this cheap, light little alcohol stove stack up? Let's find out. Alright, so we're going to compare these stoves in several different categories, and we're going to assign a point system. The winner's going to get 5 points, second place will get 4 points, all the way down to last place, which gets 0 points, because not everyone gets a trophy just for showing up today. First we'll look at stove weight, and then we're going to look at fuel weight, because it's equally as important when you look at the system. Then we'll look at boil time. Also look at stove complexity and ease of use. Finally, we'll look at the size of the cook kit system as a whole. The smaller the better. Okay, round one is weight. Let's bring out the food scale and see how these stack up. Alright, if you're getting value out of this and you want to see more of this content, hit the like button, subscribe, and that way you'll be notified whenever I make more of this content. And it lets me know the stuff that you guys like and want to see more of. Alright, round two is fuel weight, equally as important when you're talking about a hike. This is 4 ounces of heat. You can buy it anywhere, it's a gasoline treatment. But this is the alcohol that I run in all the alcohol stoves. So the Trangia, the Fancee Feest, and the knockoff Fancee Feest. That's enough to boil water 4 times over at average conditions, and that'll be enough for, you know, a weekend backpack trip for me where I don't boil anything for lunch, but only for breakfast and for dinner. So 2.2 ounces. I have a 90% full, I'll say, MSR ISO Pro all-season blend fuel canister, and that's for both rocket stoves. 5.95 ounces. This is the smallest canister I found and the one I take with me. The advantage here is it'll last a long time. I mean, this will probably last me 5 trips or more, 5 or 6 trips. So they're pretty efficient. They're actually very efficient. Not terribly expensive, but just a little bit bulkier. So 5.95 ounces. I also have, again, the smallest fuel bottle I can find for the MSR Whisper Light. This is a half full of white gas. I never fill it all the way to the top because it would last me like a month if it was. But this is an 11-ounce container. I have about 5 ounces of fuel in here and 9 ounces of weight. So I don't fill it all the way because I never need to use it. And this will last me, again, half a tank will probably last me 6+ trips on here. Alright, so now here comes the ever important boil test. We're going to pour 8 ounces of water into a titanium 750 milliliter Tokes pot and see how long it takes to boil. Simple as that. It's a shame to boil all this water. Good thing I got my AeroPress. All right, finally we're going to talk about stove complexity. Most of us can agree that it isn't life or death if we don't have a hot meal at the end of the trail. You know, it's nice to boil water, but most of us still have filters or a way of purifying the water so that we don't get sick. But it's just nice, you know, there's no better morale booster than having hot tea, hot coffee, a warm meal. So it is important to me, and I suppose, you know, for some of you, you'll be looking at these stoves as an actual survival thing. So you need them to be simple so that you don't have moving parts that are going to break, any of that. Out of the whole system, in my opinion, the winner is actually the Pocket Rocket. It is just so simple. I mean, as long as this gasket doesn't give way on you, it's just going to work, and it's going to be fast too. You don't have to think about it. You don't even need to take a windscreen if you don't want, because it puts out so many BTUs. This is just super reliable, really easy, always lights. I haven't had a single issue with it, so 5 stars. It's almost a tie with the BRS stove, but this is a little bit more finicky. It doesn't put out quite the same amount of heat. I really do use the windscreen on this because it needs it. A little more finicky, takes a little while longer to boil the water, but still gets the job done. Same principle here, 4 stars. The Trangia. This is very simple as well. In fact, in a lot of ways, it edges out the other alcohol stoves. It does have a simmer ring here, and you know, you can regulate your flame a little bit, gives it more versatility. But if you put too much fuel in here and you're done boiling, you can just drop that on and snuff it out, so it's a little safer, a little easier to use. That's going to be the next up on the list at 3 stars. Between these two stoves, the Fancee Feest and the knockoff, I'm going to have to give the edge to the Fancee Feest. It is factory made, slightly more dependable. It doesn't rust. You don't have to worry about that. There's no kind of fidgeting with, you know, do I need to cut this lower? Should I have made it higher? Any of that? No fuss. This is tried and true with a lot of happy customers, and you know, they've done their research as far as optimal wick, optimal height, all that. So 2 stars for the Fancee Feest, 1 for the knockoff. That leaves the MSR. A great stove too. You know, honestly, these are all great stoves. But there's a lot of moving parts in this, and it does have a plastic fuel pump. Some people have complained that they've had issues with it. You know, the fact that they have to give you a spare parts or replacement parts kit, that kind of bums me out. It's just a little bit extra weight, but it's necessary. You know, if you absolutely need the stove to work, you have to have the rebuild kit, and you might need to rebuild it on the trail. They don't last forever, and there's a little maintenance to this. So unfortunately, last on the list is the Whisper Light. All right, we're going to take a look now at the size of the cook kit as a whole. I think it's easy to see that the MSR Whisper Light is a behemoth. This thing is huge. Again, if you're splitting pack weight, you might choose to take this and make your peace with it. It's a great stove. It has its advantages and drawbacks, but it is not compact, so that doesn't score any points on this scale. We actually have a few ties in this category. My cook kit consists of a 750 milliliter Toaks titanium pot with a windscreen and I like to be able to fit everything in this one pot. And then I just put it in the mesh bag that it comes with. Keeps everything close together and easy to find in the pack. So I like that. Keeps me from getting too stressed out on the trail. These tied because they don't quite fit all in this cook kit. They're definitely smaller than the Whisper Light, but you know, I can fit the fuel in here, but I can't quite fit the pocket rocket, or vice versa. Same here, I can't quite get everything in with the knockoff Fancee Feest stove because it rusts, and I don't really want to have all this in the same thing that I'm going to be cooking my food in. So I usually leave this out, but I can fit everything else in the kit. With the Trangia, I can fit this, but it doesn't quite fit with the fuel on there. So again, these are all tied for close but no cigar. Each one of these gets 1 star. That means we're down to the Fancee Feest stove and the BRS. I'm actually going to slightly give the edge to the Fancee Feest. Because the stove itself is hollow, you can fit everything inside with room to spare. I can even get a rag in here so that I can hold on to the pot handles without burning myself. All that fits with plenty of room to spare. With the BRS stove, it fits if you use the smallest fuel canister, but it's just a little tight. You know, I can barely get everything in there, and then I'm just kind of crushing it down. So the BRS stove is getting 2 stars, and the Fancee Feest is going to get 3 in this round. Alright, so the testing's done, the results are in, and we have to pick a winner. So tonight, the winner actually is the BRS titanium stove. That came in at 15 points. There's a tie for second place. My Fancee Feest stove and the knockoff pocket rocket tied with 14 points, so 1 point behind the BRS. Secretly, I'm a little upset that this didn't come out on top, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Then at 8 points, I have my knockoff Fancee Feest, followed by the Trangia at 7 points. And then in last place, still has a place in my heart, is the MSR Whisper Light, the first stove I ever bought. You know, it's funny, these all actually have their benefits and drawbacks, so you have to make a decision for yourself on which stove you're going to use, at what time, for what reason. Sometimes the weight's worth it. I could even make a case still for bringing the MSR stove. You know, if I'm cooking in the winter when I have to boil snow to get water, if I'm cooking for lots of people and we want to share weight, you can make a case for any of these stoves if you're considering weight just by sharing things. Am I going to switch? Sometimes I will bring this stove again. This really restored my faith, I guess, in the value of this stove. But to be honest with you, the most important thing to me is weight at this point, and I'm still trying to get my pack lighter, and I know I'm not going to do that by adding weight with the system. So for now, I will be still bringing my Fancee Feest stove. Still almost 4 ounces lighter than the fuel and stove combined for the BRS stove. So it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if I made a decision for lots of things, before you know it, I wouldn't have a light enough pack to be able to bring all the camera equipment to be able to do this. So that's still my goal, is to shave weight, and the Fancee Feest will be my go-to. Your results may vary. Alright, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Until next time, stay safe out in the trail, and I'll see you on the next one.